The Ostron Syndicate located on Earth in Cetus is one of the first syndicates you will encounter in the game. You will need various blueprints from the Ostron Syndicate for both warframes, weapons, handmade saw weapons and AIM components later in the game, so it's highly recommended to start farming with them early on. First we will go over several ways to farm standing with the Ostron Syndicate, and afterwards we will cover how to acquire different resources needed to rank up the syndicate. Feel free to use the timestamps below the video. But before we start, there's something called the daily standing cap that I wanna cover real quick, just to give an explanation on how the standing actually works and how much you can get every day. So you can technically only get 16k standing with each syndicate every day, but then on top of that you can also get 500 per mastery level you are. So if you're mastery level 10, you can then get 5000 extra standing every day, and that means you can get 21k standing with every syndicate in the game. And if you go up to your profile in the top corner, you will be able to check the syndicates and see how much standing you still will be able to get today until the reset happens. And now with the daily cap explained, we can then begin with the video. The first method we'll be going over will be stealth hunting, and this is the most efficient way of actually farming standing quite quickly. For this method you will need something called a trank rifle, and if you already have one, feel free to skip this step, otherwise we will quickly go over how to actually acquire it. The first step will be heading to Fortuna, where you will have to talk to the business because he's the one that sells the trank rifle. The trank rifle will cost you around 500 standing, and if you don't have enough standing, you can go and do a bounty at Edico. The bounty shouldn't take too long, and after that you should have 500 standing and you can buy your trank rifle. Once you have acquired the trank rifle, you will have to head into your arsenal and actually equip the trank rifle to your gear wheel. With that done, you are now ready to start hunting in the plains of Eidolon. But before you head in, I do recommend going up into your squad menu and actually choose to go in on solo, just so you can do it at your own pace and don't have to worry about other players while farming. Then head into the plains, which can be accessed through the Cetus or directly from your navigation menu in your orbiter. Once inside, equip your trank rifle with your gear wheel menu and then aim down sight. The trank rifle should begin to beep and to indicate the nearest location of huntable animals. Then all you have to do is follow the sound or the marker until you spot the animals, but don't get too close to them as this will scare them away and this could decrease the amount of standing you get from hunting them. So now the important part: to maximize the standing you earn. Catching an animal occurs in different stages, depending on whether or not you have been detected or alerted the animal you are trying to capture. So the better the catch, the more standing you will earn, so try to maintain a distance and avoid alerting them. In this situation you could use Archwing and hover above them while you're keeping your distance, and this could be helpful while catching them. So all you want to do is keep your distance and shoot the animals from a distance with the trank rifle. Then after collecting the animal, you are rewarded immediately with the standing for the catch. Depending on your speed, you can easily max out your standing with the Ostron in under 20 minutes, making this one of the fastest ways to farm standing with the Ostron Syndicate. While this method requires you to actively gather standing as you go, the next method allows you to save excess resources and turn them into standing later, which is the second method, mining. And similar to the first method, if you don't have a mining drill, I recommend heading to Fortuna and then talk to Smokefinger and buy the plasma drill, as this is one of the best drills in the game currently and you will be able to upgrade it later on. Then equip it to your gear wheel and you're ready to head into the plains to start mining. Once you are in the plains, you can then equip your mining drill and it will display nearby mineable veins. On the left side of the screen you will then see how many veins you are close by, while on the right side you can see the distance to the nearest vein. And you will also be able to see veins on your minimap. Once you're at a vein, aim down sight and hold down the left mouse button on the small blue spots. A minigame will then pop up and you will want to release your left mouse button once you are in the white area. Completing those minigames perfectly will increase the quantity of resources you gather and give you a chance for a bonus drop, which can reward you with additional mining materials. And if you don't want to do the minigame and just want to speed through it, you don't necessarily need to do anything in the minigame. You can just click on the blue spots without doing anything, and this will just give you the minimum amount you can get out of it. So blue veins will drop gems that can be turned into standing, while the red veins will drop ores that can't. However, don't neglect the red veins just because ores provide no standing. You will need ores for a lot of things throughout Warframe, so having an excess amount of ores will always be helpful. So I highly recommend just keep on mining any vein you come by. If you don't know where to start mining in the plains, I personally recommend using one of these caves right here. The first one is the Twin Horns, which can be found right here, and then Mount Nang, which can be found up here. These are both fairly great caves that are pretty big and will have a lot of veins to be found. So just go ahead and mine everything you can find, and then once you're done, you can then head out of the plains and reset the instance. You can keep going as many times as you want to actually just farm mining resources here. And then when you're done, you then want to find Old Man Zombat, who can be found in Cetus. He is the guy you have to trade to get standing out of your gems. Some of the gems are worth 400 standing per, and some are worth 50, so it's just in between depending on how rare the gem actually is. So just turn the gems in as you feel needed, but do try and keep just a few of each gem, as they can be used for crafting and ranking up the Ostron faction. And the great thing about this method is that you can farm it advanced, so you can turn them in when needed. Additionally, you will be able to gather ores, which can be used for crafting plenty of items in Warframe. And for the third method we'll be going over will be fishing. A disclaimer for fishing is that this is one of the slower methods for actually earning standing. So I would highly recommend focusing on one of the other two if you are actually just here for standing. However, you will need a few fish to actually rank up the Ostron Syndicate, so we are just gonna go over it so you know how to fish in the plains. First, you will need a fishing spear, which can be obtained in Cetus from the Fisher High Lock. This will cost a little bit of standing with the Ostron, but you only need one of each spear depending on the type of fish you're actually catching. And it's a one-time purchase, so just get one of each spear. You can also get something called the luminous dye, which can help reveal the fish location in the water. This makes the fishing experience way more enjoyable and easier to actually catch the fish. Then just equip your fishing spear to a gear wheel and you're ready to head into the plains. While you look for a location to fish in, keep in mind that the fish you try to catch can be affected by both day-night cycle, also the location of where you're trying to fish, and then also if it's a hotspot. So that's a few factors to keep in mind when you're fishing. Also, while doing this, keep an eye out for the areas with a little bit of splashing in the water. This indicates this area is a hotspot. Once you have found a good spot, take out your fishing spear and you can then start catching fish. With the luminous dye, the fish will then glow, making them easier to spot, otherwise it might be a little bit challenging to actually see them under the water. When you're done, you can then head back to High Lock and turn in your caught fish for standing. Or you might also cut them up for resources. This is needed later on once you actually want to rank up the Ostron Syndicate. And for the last method, which is basically just doing bounties. These can be started at Konsu in Cetus and are pretty straightforward. Each bounty will reward you with a certain amount of standing upon completion. The harder the bounty, the higher the standing reward. So if you enjoy guns placing action and patrol missions, this is a great way of earning a little bit of standing. And before we go into how to rank up the Ostron Syndicate, I will just quickly go over a few quality of life tips that I thought I would share. So the first one is utilizing solo mode, which is an excellent way of playing at your own pace without having to worry about other players while actually farming for your different resources and the standing you need. The second thing is gonna be utilizing boosters, blessings, but also certain pet mods to increase your yield on resources. For the booster, you probably have to buy it with plat, but you can also get pretty lucky and actually get it in a daily reward. The resource drop blessing will on the other hand actually increase the amount of blue veins in the world while you're looking for them. This blessing can be acquired by having a MR30 player giving you the blessing by actually going to a relay, and the MR30 player can then give a blessing to everyone in the relay. So if you have a companion in the game and you actually have the mod Loyal Retriever, you can put this on your companion and this will have a chance to double the credit and resource pickups. There's also an upgraded version of this mod called the Resourceful Retriever, which is basically only for resources. There's also a credit version, but we are taking the resources up here. So basically you can have an 18% chance to double the resource pickups. And with the Loyal Retriever, you will then have a 13% chance to double credit, but also resource pickups. And if you don't have access to any of these or wondering how to get them or a little bit confused, don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. It is just a little bit of an increase in your yield and it will not do much of a change. For the third thing is gonna be if you have access to a Titania for mining, which is very effective, as you can fly around in her razor ring mode and actually mine at the same time. So you can just fly around and mine inside caves and everything, and you don't have to worry about anything. You can also use Ivara, which is great for stealth hunting, making it extremely easy to actually get perfect catches without alerting enemies and animals. On top of that, you also have a sleeping arrow, which actually works kind of like the trank rifle. So you can shoot this arrow at animals and they will fall asleep. And this tip is great for fishing, so basically there's a mod in the game called Scan Aquatic Lifeforms, which can be put on Oxylus, which is a pet you can get in the game. And that will reveal any hotspots near to you for fishing, so basically there will be a little mark on the map, and that will indicate there's a hotspot. And on top of that, you will also automatically apply Luminous dye to fish near to you. And while you're exploring the plains, you can also encounter something called the Tusk Thumper, which is basically this little mini-boss that can spawn in the plains. If you do go ahead and kill this by actually attacking its weak spots, which is the 4 legs, you will be able to get any of the resources that can be gathered in the plains. And as you see here, you might also actually get some of the finished fishing resources, so you might get like the Murkray Liver and stuff like that. Again, these are just some additional quality of life things you could do. You don't need to do any of these or take any of them into mind, I just thought I would share them. Now that we have an idea of how to actually gain standing with the Ostron Syndicate, we can begin to look at how to rank up the Syndicate. So every rank of a syndicate will require a few resources and also the maximum amount of standing you can have in your current rank with that syndicate. And as we know how to get the Ostron standing already, we will then go over where to get the resources needed for each rank and how to actually get them. So feel free to use the timestamp down below to find the rank that you're actually looking for. So first we have rank 1, which will require us to farm 25 Nistlepod, 25 Iradite and also 25 Grokdrul. And of course also having our standing maxed out at 5000. All these resources can be found and gathered in the open world area of Plains of Eidolon as a raw resource. So for the first resource is gonna be the 25 Nistlepods, and these are a plant-like deposit or plant you can find in the Plains of Eidolon. These are most commonly found in the higher elevated areas of the plains, such as Mount Nang or Ostwang range. You can then fly around these areas and you should be able to find these plants, and all you have to do is just destroy them. And of course collect the drop afterwards. But collecting 25 of these should be fairly quick and you don't have to worry about too much. While you're searching for the Nistlepod, you might also spot some Iradite, as these can be found spread around the plains, although they are most commonly found in low elevation areas or caves. These areas can be things like Twin Horn, Seaside Ruins and the Sieve. And then attack the Iradite once you find it, and you should get a small amount from the deposit. I also mentioned in the mining section 2 different caves. You will also be able to find Iradite in those if you are looking for it. And then lastly is the Grokdrul. This is a resource that can be found around or in Grineer camps. These are like small barrel-like containers which are scattered throughout the campgrounds. All you have to do is destroy them to collect the Grokdrul inside. Usually there's a few structures or Grineer soldiers nearby, and you can likely find some Grokdrul around them as well. As this is rank 1, these resources are fairly common to come by and shouldn't be too hard to get. But once you have acquired all the necessary resources, you will then head to Khonsu in Cetus and click on the rank up button in his menu. This will then grant you with the rank 1, and you will also be able to buy all items that require you to be rank 1 with the Ostron Syndicate. On top of that, your standing capacity will actually increase to 22,000. So now you will be able to gain up to 22,000 standing with the Ostron Syndicate instead. You will also need to max out your standing to rank up to rank 2, so just keep that in mind. This time you will have to get 22,000 standing. And for rank 2 you will need a tier Azurite, which you will need a blueprint to actually craft this gem, which can be purchased from Old Man Sombat in Cetus for 500 Ostron standing. So just go to Sombat and buy the blueprint so you can actually craft the thing. After that you will have to get your Azurite, which you can find by mining blue veins out in the Plains of Eidolon. You will need 10 Azurite to actually craft the 10 tier Azurite you will need, and also while mining remember to mine for some red veins, as they have a chance to drop Pyrol, which you will need 40 of too. So it's time to get to some mining, as this can take a little bit of time just to get the 40 Pyrol you need. And once you're done with the mining part, you can then head back to your orbiter and actually craft the 10 tier Azurite you need by going to your foundry and just crafting them. And for the last resource you will need 60 fish scales, which drops from any fish in the Plains of Eidolon. So all you have to do is go out and fish, and then once you have fished for a few fish you will have to head back to High Luck and actually turn the fish into fish scales by cutting them up. Once you have done that, you will then just have to fish until you have around 60 fish scales in total, and you are actually almost ready to rank up. Now you just need the 22,000 standing, and you can head to Khonsu and actually rank up your standing. And now for rank 3, where you will need 1 Cetus Wisp and 5 Maprico. And for these resources you will have to scavenge the plains, mostly around lakes, as the Cetus Wisp actually spawns around lake areas. And you can follow the map as seen on the screen right here to find the most common path to actually getting the Cetus Wisp. Then simply run through the wisp if you find one, and then you will collect it. As for the Maprico, look for fruit trees and destroy them to collect the Maprico, which shouldn't be too hard to find as they can be found all over the plains. Also try and collect an extra 10 as you will actually need that for the next rank up. And again, once all the resources needed has been gathered, all you have to do is max out your standing, and you can then head to Kanto and actually rank up your standing. For rank 4 you will need 10 Maprico, then 40 Fersteel Alloy and 5 Murkray Liver, also maxing out your standing of 70,000. As mentioned before, the 10 Maprico can be found all over the plains, in fruit trees, so just find around and destroy these little fruit trees. For Fersteel Alloy you will need to mine red veins for ore called ferros. You will need 40 of these, along with 800 plastids and then also 400 rubio. The plastides and rubio can be found in these missions as you see here. You will just have to do any mission in these areas and you should be able to find them in the missions. You will also need a blueprint if you haven't gotten it yet. This blueprint can be purchased from Old Man Zombat for 5,000 standing and is a permanent blueprint. The blueprint is called the Fersteel Alloy and you will have to have this to actually craft the Fersteel Alloy. So all you have to do is go to Zombat and then buy the blueprint. Once you have it, you can then craft it in your foundry. You'll then have to craft 40 of these. As you see, the blueprint will give you 20, but you will just have to craft it 2 times then. And then for the last resource called the Murkray Liver, you will need to fish in ocean hotspots using the Lenso Spear. And also using the Murkray Bait, as this will significantly increase your chances of actually getting them. And these can be purchased from High Lock for 200 standing each. Also search for the luminous dye, as this will greatly help you actually spot the fish while you're fishing. Then run along the coast and find an area with like hotspots where the water is splashing a bit. Then throw out your bait and also your luminous dye and just begin fishing with your spear. But do keep in mind the Murkray fish is a rare spawn, so it might take a little bit of time to actually find them. So hopefully the bait will help a bit on that front. Once you have caught 5 Murkrays, take them to High Lock to cut them up, as each will provide 1 liver each, so all you have to do is cut 5 fish up and you should have your 5 Murkray livers. Then all you have to do is get your 70,000 standing and you will be ready to rank up. And for the final rank, which is gonna be rank 5, you'll need 1 Nyth, 1 Sentirum and 1 Nog Brain. On top of that you will also need 1 Grokdrul Tendril and a maximum of standing of 99,000. So to get the resources, we will start out with the mining ones, which is gonna be the Nyth and the Sentirum, which both comes from blue veins in the plains and have around a 15 to 30% drop chance, so you'll just have to keep mining until you have 1 of each. And for the Nog Brain you will have to fish again, this time using the Pyram spear as Nyth, as this is the only spear that actually works really well for this fish. You will then have to scavenge lakes around the plains and see if you can find a hotspot. And then also be sure to use your luminous dye and also pick up some Nog bait from High Lock. And then all you have to do is fish again, but keep in mind both these fish in this category is both gonna be rare, so it might take you some time to actually get. And then for the Cuthol Tendrils, you will need to fish in pond areas with hotspots using the Grokdrul bait, and any plain spear will do for catching this fish. So best of luck on the fishing game, and hopefully you will be able to get both of these fish and also the other fish you have to catch to actually rank up all of the ranks. And then with that done, all you have to do is get your 99,000 standing and you will be able to rank up to rank 5, or Kin as it is called in the Ostron Syndicate. And as this is the last rank with the Ostron Syndicate, you can now get all of the different recipes and blueprints and stuff that the Ostron faction actually sells, but you will of course have to use standing to buy them. And now that we have covered everything standing and rank related, I want to go over one last thing, something I personally didn't focus much on early in the game, which is the saw mechanic. So in Cetus there's an NPC called the Hawk, and he can make some crafted weapons, which requires you to have 3 different weapon parts, and you can then combine them and craft your own kind of a weapon. And the saw weapon then consists of the 3 different parts, each with their own stats, which combine to create the final saw, which is tailored to your customization. These can be crafted and are pretty powerful if you mod them right, and also on top of that they are just generally pretty powerful as a heavy weapon. And if you have seen some people run around with some big melee weapons and throwing them into the ground doing an AoE clear effect, this is from this weapon. I won't go into full details about the stats and how each part works, but that will be something for a later video, so let me know if that would be interesting. And with that covered, we have basically covered everything Ostron related. There is a second syndicate in Cetus, which we'll go over in a later bit, but right now this is everything covering the Ostron, and we will continue onwards and covering all the other syndicates in the game. So if you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, feel free to like the video and also give a subscribe, as we will continue this series and also a lot of other guides for Warframe in general. So feel free to join the community and hop on Warframe and grind a bit, and also we do have a Discord, so feel free to join that down below in the description. Anyways, that's it for the video, so hopefully I see you in the next one. Peace out.